Part 4. The breaking point. Recognition and realization. Chapter 10. Hidden manipulation. Recognizing when others make you the problem. Never try to defend yourself against a narcissist. They already know you're right. They just want you to go crazy trying to prove it. It starts subtly. A comment here. A dismissive reaction there. You bring up something that hurt you, and instead of getting an apology, you get a confused look and a response like, that never happened. Or maybe it did happen, but you're told you're overreacting, too sensitive, or reading into things too much. At first, you might question yourself. Did I misinterpret that? Am I making a big deal out of nothing? But over time, the doubt grows. And before you know it, you're questioning your own reality. This is gaslighting, the psychological manipulation that makes you second-guess your thoughts, emotions, and even your memory of events. It's not just someone disagreeing with you or having a different perspective. It's someone actively making you feel like your experiences aren't valid, like your feelings are an inconvenience, and like you are the problem for even bringing them up. Gaslighting can happen in any type of relationship. Romantic, friendships, family, even at work. It's one of the most toxic forms of manipulation because it's designed to make you doubt yourself to the point where you no longer trust your own judgment. And when you stop trusting yourself, it becomes easier for someone else to control the narrative. Abusers will be like, how dare you ruin my reputation by telling people things I did and said? The most dangerous part? Gaslighting doesn't just make you question the situation. It makes you question yourself. You start wondering if maybe you do overreact, if maybe you do expect too much, if maybe you really are the problem. And once that doubt takes hold, it becomes harder to stand up for yourself because you're no longer sure if your feelings are even valid. One of the biggest red flags of gaslighting is when someone refuses to acknowledge your feelings. Instead of listening, they dismiss, minimize, or flip the conversation back on you. They might say things like, you're imagining things. You're just being dramatic. You always have to start a fight over nothing. I never said that. Why do you always take things the wrong way? You're remembering it wrong. Notice how none of these responses actually address what you're feeling. Instead of taking accountability, they shift the focus to making you feel like you're wrong for even bringing it up. And that's the entire goal of gaslighting, to make you feel so unsure of yourself that you stop questioning them altogether. When people know they did you wrong, they avoid you. When perpetrators pretend to be the victims. You're crazy to everyone who can't manipulate you. But gaslighting isn't the only tactic people use to manipulate you. Some people will hurt you and then act like you hurt them. They will betray your trust, lie, manipulate, or treat you unfairly, and when you finally call them out or walk away, suddenly they're the one suffering. Suddenly, they're the victim, and you're the cruel one for not tolerating their behavior anymore. This is one of the most frustrating and emotionally draining experiences to go through. When the person who caused the damage twists the story to make themselves look innocent while making you look like the problem. It's not just manipulation, it's a complete rewriting of reality. So why do people do this? Why do some people refuse to take responsibility and instead play the victim in situations where they are clearly at fault? 1. To avoid accountability. Taking responsibility for their actions would require them to face the truth, that they were wrong, that they hurt someone, and that they should change. But change is uncomfortable, and accountability requires effort. It's easier to flip the script. Instead of acknowledging what they did, they make you seem like the unreasonable one for reacting to their behavior. Maybe you got upset because they lied to you. Instead of apologizing, they say, I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of this. You're always trying to find a reason to be mad at me. Maybe they ignored your boundaries, and when you finally put your foot down, they say, you're being so cold and distant. I don't know why you're treating me this way. Maybe they consistently took advantage of your kindness, and when you finally stop catering to them, they say, I guess you never really cared about me at all. Notice what's happening? They're not addressing what they did. They're not apologizing. They're making your reaction the problem instead of their behavior. This is a classic manipulation tactic to avoid taking responsibility. 2. To control the narrative. The moment they sense they might lose power over you, they rewrite the story. And in their version, they are the victim and you are the villain. They'll exaggerate details, conveniently leave out key moments, or completely twist the truth to make themselves look like the innocent one. Suddenly, they were just trying to help, and you overreacted. Suddenly, they didn't mean to hurt you, and you're unfairly attacking them. And if they can get other people to believe their story, even better. They will tell anyone who will listen how much you've hurt them, how they just don't understand why you've changed, how they did everything for you, and this is how you repay them. They want sympathy. They want attention. Most of all, they want to make sure that no one sees the truth about what actually happened. Be careful what you hear about somebody. You might be hearing it from the problem. 3. Because they genuinely believe their own lies. Some people aren't just pretending to be the victim. They truly see themselves that way. They are so disconnected from their own actions that they don't even recognize the harm they've caused. In their mind, they can do no wrong. Anytime something goes wrong in their life, it's always someone else's fault. They refuse to reflect, refuse to self-analyze, and refuse to grow. These types of people live in a state of perpetual victimhood, where the world is always against them. No matter what happens, they see themselves as the one who was wronged, even when they were the one causing the harm. If you confront them, they won't see it as an opportunity for self-awareness. They'll see it as an attack. And instead of listening, they will immediately go on the defensive, painting you as the aggressor for daring to hold them accountable. 4. To manipulate your emotions. The most dangerous thing about people who play the victim is that they know how to make you doubt yourself. They use your empathy against you, making you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. They'll cry. They'll talk about how hard their life is. They'll bring up every struggle they've ever gone through, making you feel like you're being too harsh or too unforgiving. And because you don't want to be the bad guy, you soften. You second-guess yourself. You start to wonder if maybe you are really being unfair. This is exactly what they want. Because the moment you doubt yourself, you give them back their power. You let them escape accountability. You fall back into the pattern of accepting their behavior because you don't want to hurt them. But the truth is, they don't care about how they've hurt you. They only care about controlling how you respond to it. Not one scar on my heart came from an enemy. They all came from people who claimed to love me the most. 5. Because it's always worked before. People who play the victim do so because it has always worked for them. It's a pattern they've repeated over and over. And if it has kept them from taking responsibility in the past, why would they stop now? They've learned that if they cry, if they act wounded, if they make enough of a scene, people will side with them. They've learned that as long as they look like the victim, no one will question what they actually did to cause the situation in the first place. And if they can manipulate you into feeling guilty, if they can make you question yourself, then they win. They get to walk away without consequences, while you sit there wondering if maybe you really are the bad guy. These behaviors are called psychological projections, defense mechanisms identified by Sigmund Freud and further developed by researchers like George E. Vaillant, 1992. When someone projects their own negative behaviors onto you, they're unconsciously transferring unacceptable feelings or actions to protect their self-image. Research in cognitive psychology has shown that this self-deception allows people to maintain a positive self-concept despite engaging in harmful behaviors. Bandura, 1999. By casting themselves as victims, they resolve the cognitive dissonance between their actions and their desired self-image as good people. You can't keep getting mad at people for sucking the life out of you if you keep giving them the straw. Protect your peace. Leave. Recognizing manipulation and reclaiming your reality. So how do you recognize when you're being manipulated in these ways? One sign is when you feel worse after every conversation. You start out upset about something, but by the end, instead of feeling heard, you feel confused, guilty, or like you need to apologize, even though you were the one who had a valid concern. Another concern is that you've stopped trusting your own emotions. You hesitate before speaking up because you worry you'll just be told you're overreacting again. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you're the one in the wrong. You second-guess your own experiences because the other person seems so sure that you're mistaken. The most important thing to remember is this: your feelings are real. Your experiences are real. If something upset you, it matters. Someone who genuinely cares about you won't try to convince you otherwise. They will listen, even if they don't agree. Some people have to pretend you're a bad person so they don't feel guilty about the things they did to you. So to recap, this is how you recognize when it's time to distance yourself from manipulative dynamics. First, notice the pattern of doubt. If after interactions you consistently feel confused about your own perceptions, this isn't coincidental. It's a deliberate erosion of your reality. Second, document the reality distortion. When someone consistently rewrites history, start keeping records. Create a private journal of actual events, not to prove anything to them, which rarely works, but to maintain your own grip on reality amid their contradictions. Third, watch for the moment when defending your perspective becomes your full-time job. When you find yourself exhausted from constantly having to validate your own experiences, that's not a communication problem. It's a manipulation problem. And finally, recognize that clarity often comes only with distance. Sometimes you can't see the full extent of manipulation until you're no longer immersed in it. This isn't about boundaries alone. It's about preserving your fundamental right to trust your own perception of reality. When dealing with someone who plays the victim, trust your own reality. If someone is making you feel like you're crazy, pause and ask yourself, what actually happened? Stick to the facts. Don't let them rewrite the story. Refuse to engage in their guilt trips. If they start playing the victim to avoid accountability, don't fall for it. If they were truly sorry, they would own up to their actions, not twist the narrative. Recognize that some people will never change. You will never get through to someone who refuses to see their own patterns. Stop wasting your energy trying to make them understand. Because once you stop questioning yourself, once you stop letting someone else rewrite your reality, you take your power back. And that is something no manipulator wants to see. Nobody gets angrier than a narcissist being accused of something they definitely did. Once you can recognize manipulation for what it is, you'll eventually reach a pivotal moment. The breaking point where awareness transforms into action. This isn't just about identifying unhealthy patterns anymore. It's about finding the clarity and courage to finally say, enough. Chapter 11. The last time they'll make you feel this way. Knowing when to walk away. Sorry, but someone who destroys your mental health cannot be the love of your life. There comes a moment when you just know. Maybe it's not dramatic. Maybe it's not some big explosion. Maybe there isn't even a final conversation. It's just a feeling. A quiet realization that you can't do this anymore. That you've been waiting, hoping, excusing, explaining over and over again. And for what? Another disappointment? Another excuse? Another cycle that leads you right back to the same feeling? Hurt? Drained? Unseen? You tell yourself that maybe this time will be different. Maybe they'll finally understand. Maybe they'll wake up and realize what they have. Maybe if you just explain it one more time, they'll get it. But they never do. They never really hear you. They just do the bare minimum to keep you holding on. Just enough to keep you hoping. And every time, you convince yourself to stay a little longer, to give them another chance, to shrink yourself just a little more so they don't feel uncomfortable with your needs. But one day, something shifts. Maybe it's a small moment, something that wouldn't have seemed like a big deal before. A comment that feels different this time. A silence that speaks louder than words. A realization that you're not even shocked anymore. You're just tired. Tired of feeling like you're the only one who cares enough to fix things. Tired of being in a relationship, a friendship, a situation that only seems to take from you, never give. Tired of holding on to the idea of who they could be instead of accepting who they really are. And that's when it hits you. This is the last time. The last time they will make you feel unworthy. The last time you let their inconsistency mess with your peace. The last time you let their own insecurities make you doubt yourself. The last time you give them access to your heart when they haven't proven they deserve it. The last time you believe in the potential of someone instead of looking at their actual actions. Because this time, you're not just saying you're done. You actually are. Walking away doesn't always mean there's some big betrayal. Sometimes, the deepest pain comes from realizing that someone you cared about just doesn't have the capacity to meet you where you are. That they don't love you in the way you need to be loved. That they are not willing to change, no matter how many times they say they will. And that's hard to accept, because it means letting go of the version of them you had in your head. Oftentimes we get called crazy for assuming things that turned out to be true. You have to grieve the hope you held on to. You have to let go of the idea that if you just tried harder, if you just loved more, if you just said the right thing, then maybe they would finally see your worth. But the truth is, the right people won't need convincing to treat you well. So this is the last time you let them make you feel small. The last time you justify their lack of effort. The last time you accept less than what you know you deserve. You need to decide that your peace is more important than their presence. That your self-worth isn't up for negotiation. That loving someone doesn't mean you have to accept mistreatment, emotional inconsistency, or one-sided effort. Because the truth is, the moment you finally decide to walk away for real, you'll already know in your heart that you made the right decision. And that's when you'll realize this is the last time they'll ever make you feel this way. Because after this, you'll never tolerate it again. True closure isn't about getting an apology or an explanation. It's about making peace with the fact that you may never get one. It's about realizing that closure is a choice, not something someone else gives you. Not every insult needs a rebuttal. Not every misunderstanding needs an explanation. And more importantly, not every toxic situation needs your participation. The peace you feel without their presence in your life is worth being the villain in their story. Walking away is a powerful decision, but it comes with unexpected emotions. Even as you reclaim your worth and set firm boundaries, you may find yourself experiencing a surprising grief. This next chapter explores the complex emotions that arise when you choose growth, even when that growth means leaving parts of your old life behind. Chapter 12. The Grief of Growth. Mourning Relationships Left Behind. No one tells you about the profound sadness that comes with outgrowing relationships. There's a special kind of sorrow that arrives, not from losing what was taken from you, but from consciously choosing to walk away from connections that once felt like home. This isn't the same grief as losing someone suddenly. It's a gradual, often silent realization that your path is diverging from people who once walked alongside you. You notice it in subtle moments, a conversation where you realize you're speaking a language they no longer understand, a shared experience that doesn't resonate the way it once did, a growing discomfort in social spaces that used to feel like your natural habitat. It's a strange kind of heartbreak. To love someone, to have shared years of laughter, support, and connection, yet to feel yourself slowly drifting toward a different horizon. I don't walk away to teach people a lesson. I walk away because I finally learn mine. At first, you try to bridge the gap. You make excuses for the growing distance. You tell yourself nothing fundamental has changed in the relationship. But deep down, you know the truth. As you evolve, some connections can't evolve with you. And that recognition brings its own unique pain. The discomfort of sharing space with people who still expect a version of you that no longer exists. But here's what you need to understand. Transformation is not betrayal. Evolution is not abandonment. What feels like leaving others behind is often simply the courage to stop abandoning yourself. The reality is more nuanced than just outgrowing people, as though they're somehow less than you. Sometimes it's simply that your soul is called in a different direction. Some relationships are meant to be lifelong journeys. Others are meant to be beautiful chapters in your story, with a beginning, middle, and end. That doesn't diminish what you shared. That doesn't invalidate the love that was real. That doesn't require you to sever connections with harshness or indifference. It simply means accepting the natural evolution of human connection, rather than forcing continuity where a natural completion has occurred. What makes this transition harder isn't just guilt. It's the weight of shared history. When people have known you for years, they don't just know you. They've played a role in creating aspects of who you are. Walking away can feel like losing pieces of your own story, even when it's necessary for your growth. Some people will surprise you by celebrating your transformation, even when it means the relationship must change form. They'll love who you're becoming even more than who you were. They'll find joy in your growth, even if you no longer fit neatly into the space they've held for you. You don't always have to tell your side of the story. Time will. But others will resist. Not always from bad intentions, but from their own fear of change and loss. They'll mistake your growth for rejection. They'll interpret your new boundaries as punishment. They'll try to convince you that loyalty means staying the same forever. But ask yourself this: what is the deeper betrayal? To acknowledge when a connection has run its natural course, or to live a half-life of compromise just to keep others comfortable? To honor what was by allowing it to take its place in your past, or to weaken its meaning by forcing it into a future where it no longer belongs? You can honor people while still releasing your grip on relationships that have completed their purpose. You can be grateful for what they gave you without forcing them into a story they no longer fit. You can cherish the past without sacrificing your own evolution. You don't need closure from others. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need to explain why you are choosing a life that finally feels like your own. Because deep down, you already know. Relationships, like people, aren't meant to remain static. Some connections serve us for a season, others for a lifetime, but all are valid parts of our journey. You can be friends with people for years, and it can take years for you to realize they were never your friend. As you work through the grief of outgrown relationships and say goodbye to connections that no longer serve you, you enter a new phase. The external letting go now gives way to a deeper, internal transformation. One that requires facing the empty space that remains when familiar relationships and identities fall away. Chapter 13. The emergence of your authentic self. There is a fire in you that has been waiting to be unleashed, a power that has been buried under overthinking, self-doubt, guilt, and fear. You have spent so much of your life carrying things that were never meant for you, expectations, old wounds, the weight of people's opinions, the heaviness of a past that no longer fits who you are becoming. And now, it's time to witness the emergence of who you truly are. Completely, unapologetically, authentically. Transformation isn't just about leaving behind what hurts you. It's about the beautiful unfolding of your true nature, the person you were always meant to become, before life circumstances taught you to hide parts of yourself. It's about discovering the gifts, strengths, and qualities that were always within you, waiting for the right conditions to flourish and be expressed. The older I get, the less I feel the need to be included, understood, or accepted. The butterfly's transformation offers the perfect example for this process. The caterpillar doesn't simply grow wings. It completely dissolves within its chrysalis, becoming neither what it was nor what it will be, but pure potential. Scientists call this the imaginal stage, where total reorganization happens. In the same way, as you emerge from old patterns and relationships, you're not simply becoming a slightly different version of your former self. You're experiencing a fundamental rewiring of who you are at your core. This is your time. The time to express the authentic voice you've silenced for too long. The time to honor your natural talents and abilities, rather than the ones others expected of you. The time to live according to your true values, not the values imposed upon you. You owe no one an explanation for this authenticity. The only thing you owe yourself is permission to express who you've always been, beneath all the adaptations and compromises. The person emerging now isn't you. They've been within you all along. What's new is your willingness to let them be seen. Your tendency to overthink is replaced by quiet confidence in your own instincts. Your need for approval transforms into steady self-trust. The weights of guilt lifts as you recognize the inherent worthiness of your needs and boundaries. The emergence is what being authentic truly means. It's not about creating a more appealing personality or becoming someone different. It's about removing the layers of protection and performance that covered your essential self. It's about returning to the wisdom and understanding you were born with, now enriched by your life experiences and lessons learned along the way. Moving forward authentically means knowing your worth without needing external validation. It means trusting your perceptions without constant second-guessing. It means expressing your truth with the simple clarity of someone who no longer fears disapproval. It means choosing what genuinely nourishes your spirit rather than what pleases others. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not someone who needs to be fixed. You are someone who is finally allowing your true nature to emerge, free from others' expectations. And in this authentic expression lies your greatest power and strength. So take this moment to recognize the emergence happening within you. Feel the power of living aligned with your truth. Know the peace that comes from no longer fighting against your own nature, and step forward, not as a new person, but as the real you who has been waiting all along to be expressed. Just believe. Nobody has met you by accident. God has planned everything. The emergence of your authentic self is a profound journey, but living from this place requires consistent practice and practical choices. How do you maintain connection with your true nature when old patterns try to resurface? How do you navigate a world that may not be ready for the authentic you? The following approaches will help you anchor this emerging self in your daily life. Chapter 14. The Empty Space. Death and Rebirth of Identity. Some roads you need to take alone. No friends, no family, no partner. Just you and God. Beyond the grief of outgrowing relationships and the emergence of your authentic self lies an even deeper challenge. The empty space where your old identity dissolves completely. This isn't just about changing your outer life or discovering new parts of yourself. It's about facing the void that appears when you step beyond who you've always thought you were. This empty space isn't a detour on your path. It's where you need to go. After you've walked away from toxic relationships, left harmful patterns, and started speaking with your true voice, you reach a clearing. Here, you face not just the absence of others, but the fading of your familiar sense of self. At first, this emptiness feels like relief. The weight of pretending lifts. The exhaustion of keeping up appearances fades. You can breathe without the pressure to be someone you're not. But then comes a different kind of discomfort. A deep confusion that few people talk about. You start to see how much of your identity was built around adaptations, defenses, and habits. Those weekend drinking sessions you thought were unwinding you were actually numbing. The social media scrolling you called staying connected was avoiding deeper connection with yourself. The overworking you labeled ambition was keeping you from facing what truly mattered. When these familiar anchors of identity fall away, you face the scary but freeing question: who am I without these patterns? That empty space in your bed is better than having a wrong person next to you. This void is where most people turn back. Not because they want to, but because losing your sense of self creates a dizziness unlike anything else. Without the familiar landmarks of your old self, you temporarily lose your way. You might wonder, was I really that unhappy before? Maybe I should go back to my old ways. Maybe it's better to be someone I recognize rather than to face this emptiness. Your old self doesn't give up easily. Like someone being pushed out of their home, it will give you reasons why this journey into emptiness is foolish or dangerous. It will bring up memories of past failures as proof that you can't change. It will turn your doubts into loud warnings. But this resistance isn't a sign you're going the wrong way. It's proof you're getting close to a breakthrough. Think of this empty space like a cleared lot where an old building once stood. The old structure is gone, creating a temporary emptiness that might look like nothing to someone passing by. But the builder sees something different. The perfect spot for something new to be created. Without this clearing, nothing new could be built. Unlike earlier parts of your journey, where you could see progress through outer changes or emotional shifts, this phase often looks invisible to others and feels hard to explain even to yourself. You won't necessarily feel better in obvious ways. Instead, you'll notice subtle shifts. You'll see thoughts and feelings as passing events rather than who you are. You'll find yourself less triggered by things that once sent you spiraling. You'll notice a small pause between what happens and how you respond. You'll feel less need to defend positions or identities you once clung to. This is the shift from being your thoughts to watching your thoughts happen. From being your emotions to observing them come and go. It's moving from being caught in your story to watching the story unfold. The self you're outgrowing served important purposes. It helped you navigate childhood wounds, survive difficult times, and create enough stability to function in the world. This old self wasn't a mistake. It was a necessary shell that protected you until now. Thank it for its service instead of judging it. What makes this phase different is that you're not just trading one identity for another. You're discovering the awareness that exists beyond all identities. This isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about recognizing that your deepest nature exists beyond all versions, all self-images, all constructed identities. There were things you said years ago that you no longer agree with today. There were things you did years ago that you don't do anymore. No, you are not two-faced. You are simply growing and changing as you should be, as we all should be. The surprising truth about this empty space is that what feels like losing yourself actually reveals what can never be lost. The real you isn't another identity. It's the awareness that remains when all identities fall away. What you feared losing was never actually who you were. Your essence was always the consciousness watching the show, not the character you were playing. As you get comfortable with this spaciousness, something amazing happens. The emptiness you feared wasn't empty at all. It was full of possibilities that couldn't grow while you were holding tight to your old self. This apparent void contains everything you need to create authentically. In the space beyond who you thought you were, you discover who you've always been. Not as a fixed identity, but as the open awareness from which all experiences arise. The canvas on which all self-images are temporarily painted, but which itself remains untouched. When you no longer need to defend a particular idea of yourself, you're free to respond to life with flexibility and realness. When you're not trapped by who you believe you should be, you can express who you actually are in each moment, not as an act, but as a natural unfolding. This is the greatest freedom. Not freedom to become whatever you want, but freedom from the belief that you need to become anything at all to be worthy of existence. The empty space isn't the end of your journey. It's the clearing from which your authentic life begins to grow, no longer limited by who you once believed yourself to be. Part 4. Solutions. Funny thing about getting older? Your eyesight might weaken, yet you can see through people much better. You've reached the point where awareness crystallizes into action. The fog of doubt has lifted, revealing what you've perhaps known all along. Some dynamics can't be fixed. Some people won't change. And sometimes the only path forward is to walk away. But how do you trust this knowing when manipulation has made you question your own reality? How do you find the courage to leave when guilt still tugs at your conscience? How do you navigate the grief of outgrowing relationships and identities that once defined you? The first step toward freedom from manipulation is rebuilding trust in your own perception. When someone has consistently made you doubt yourself, you need concrete strategies to re-establish connection with reality. The following approach helps you reclaim your internal compass without getting drawn back into exhausting debates about what is or isn't true. When someone has systematically undermined your confidence in your own perceptions, rebuilding that trust becomes your first priority. The most effective approach isn't trying to convince the manipulator of your reality. It's strengthening your own connection to it. Reality anchoring. Reclaiming your perception. God will expose every person in your life who is not for you. You won't have to dig. The proof will fall right into your lap. Implement the reality preservation protocol to counteract gaslighting and manipulation. First, create an objective record. In a private journal, preferably digital and password protected, document specific interactions immediately after they occur. Include exact quotes, contextual details, and your unfiltered emotional response. This isn't paranoia. It's protection against the memory distortion that manipulation creates. Research on memory formation shows that each time we recall an event, we actually reconstruct it rather than retrieving an intact record. Without documentation, repeated challenges to your perception can literally rewrite your memories. Next, Selectively share your experience with a trusted outsider, someone who has no connection to the manipulator and no stake in your shared dynamics. Simply describe what happened without editorializing. Then ask, does this seem reasonable to you? This external validation isn't about gathering allies, but about calibrating your reality meter when manipulation has tampered with its settings. Finally, recognize manipulation tactics in real time with these identification questions. Am I feeling confused about something that should be straightforward? Do I find myself constantly explaining or defending basic perceptions? Do I feel worse about myself after interactions with this person? Is there a pattern of my concerns being turned back on me? When you notice these signs, implement an immediate cognitive protection response. 1. Pause the conversation. I need to think about this more clearly. 2. Physically step back or create literal distance. 3. Mentally affirm. My perceptions are valid even if challenged. 4. Decline to engage in debates about what you experienced. This approach is particularly effective because it sidesteps the trap of trying to convince manipulators who are invested in maintaining their alternative reality. Instead, it focuses on preserving your connection to truth, the foundation of all authentic decision-making. I save some people's reputation by not telling my side of the story. It's best to stay silent through the storms. Toxic people usually destroy themselves in the process of trying to destroy you. Once you've strengthened your connection to reality, you face the challenge of actually leaving. Not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. Many people struggle with multiple false exits before making a clean break. These strategies help you move beyond the cycle of one more chance to make a departure that truly lasts. The definitive departure. Beyond one more chance. I don't care what anyone says. Good people get tired of being good to ungrateful people. The most difficult threshold to cross isn't deciding to leave, but actually leaving. After multiple false starts, postponed departures, and final chances, how do you make this time truly different? The answer lies in understanding what is referred to as the extinction burst, the temporary intensification of unwanted behavior when reinforcement is withdrawn. This explains why, when you've previously tried to leave, manipulative people suddenly improve just enough to keep you attached, only to revert once security is restored. Break this cycle with the clean break protocol. First, crystallize your decision through the point of no return exercise. List every promise that's been broken, every pattern that's been repeated, every hopeful expectation that's been disappointed. Be ruthlessly specific. Then answer one question. If this exact pattern continues for 5 more years, am I willing to live with it? This question cuts through the hope of change and focuses on the reality of consistency. Once your decision is clear, create a departure plan with these elements. Practical logistics, financial agreements, living situations, shared possessions. Support resources, people who will sustain you through difficult moments. Anticipated manipulation tactics, how they'll likely respond and your prepared counters. Non-negotiable boundaries for any final communication. When implementing your departure, embrace the communication minimalism principle. Use direct, unambiguous language. Avoid explaining your reasoning, which only creates openings for debate. Decline negotiations, suggested compromises, or promises of change. Communicate once and completely, then disengage. What makes this approach powerful is its recognition that the urge to explain comes from lingering guilt, not practical necessity. As therapist Shannon Thomas notes in her research on psychological abuse, closure is something you give yourself, not something you get from someone else. You know what I would really like to see go viral? Basic human decency. After leaving behind relationships and patterns that defined you, you enter the disorientating space between who you were and who you're becoming. This transitional territory can be frightening, but with the right framework, you can move through it with greater ease and purpose. Navigating identity transition. The space between who you were and who you're becoming is perhaps the most challenging territory to traverse. You've left behind relationships, patterns, and identities that, however limiting, provided a sense of familiarity. Now you face identity discontinuity, the disorientating sense that you are no longer the same person, yet not fully formed into someone new. You should be flattered. There was a group effort to take you down, and you are still standing. Move through this terrain with the identity bridge framework. First, honor the self you're leaving behind. This constructed identity, with all its limitations, served a vital purpose. It protected you when you needed protection. Create a private ritual acknowledging both its service and its completion. Write a letter to this former self, expressing gratitude for its survival strategies, while gently explaining why those strategies are no longer needed. Next, navigate the void between identities by creating transitional anchors, small, concrete practices that provide stability while you transform. Daily rituals that ground you in sensation rather than thought. Creative expression without judgment or purpose. Connection with nature, which transcends human identity constructs. Movement practices that relocate awareness from mind to body. These anchors aren't distractions from the discomfort of transition. They're stable reference points as you move through it. Research on major life transitions shows that maintaining certain constants during periods of change significantly reduces associated psychological distress. Finally, practice emergent identity cultivation, actively nurturing the self that's being born. Experiment with new responses to old triggers. Notice when you naturally act in ways that surprise the old self. Deliberately practice unfamiliar behaviors that align with your deeper values. Celebrate moments of authenticity, even when they feel foreign or uncomfortable. What makes this approach unique is its recognition that identity transformation isn't about rejection but evolution. You're not becoming someone different. You're becoming more authentically who you've always been, beneath adaptive patterns that once served but now constrain you. The final challenge isn't about techniques, but about finding the courage to walk a path that may have no external validation. When you've been conditioned to seek approval or certainty, this requires developing a new relationship with the unknown and learning to trust your own internal guidance system. The courage of uncharted territory. The final stage of liberation isn't about techniques or strategies. It's about embracing the fundamental courage of walking your own path, even when that path isn't fully visible, even when there's no external validation confirming you're headed in the right direction. Cultivate this courage through the uncertainty embrace practice. Each day, deliberately do one thing for which you have no script, no precedent in your history, no guarantee of success. Start small. Express a preference you would typically silence. Create a boundary you would normally abandon. Pursue an interest your former self would have dismissed. With each step into the unknown, you strengthen your tolerance for uncertainty, the essential skill for authentic living. When doubt inevitably rises, implement the soul compass check. 1. Place your hand on your heart or solar plexus. 2. Ask yourself, does this choice create expansion or contraction in my being? 3. Notice the physical sensation that arises, a subtle opening or tightening. 4. Trust this body wisdom over intellectual justifications. This practice taps into what neuroscientists call interoception, your brain's perception of your body's internal state, which research increasingly shows plays a crucial role in intuitive decision-making. By learning to detect subtle physical cues that precede conscious thought, you access wisdom that manipulation cannot touch. Reinforce your courage daily with the freedom affirmation, not as empty positive thinking, but as an active declaration of sovereignty. I am the author of my life. I trust my perception. I honor my needs. I walk away from what diminishes me. I move toward what enlarges me. I owe no explanation for my evolution. The integration. You will always win when you move with love and genuine intentions. Always. The journey from manipulation to liberation, from self-doubt to self-trust, from confinement to courage, isn't a single decision but a daily practice of choosing yourself. It begins with anchoring your reality against gaslighting and manipulation. It continues with making a definitive departure from cycles that diminish you. It deepens as you navigate the disorientating but necessary transformation of identity. And it culminates in the courage to walk an uncharted path, guided by your own internal compass. This isn't just about specific relationships or situations you're leaving behind. It's about permanently altering how you move through the world, with clarity, conviction, and an unwavering commitment to your own experience. It's about recognizing that your perspective matters, your needs matter, your authentic expression matters. Not because someone else validates these things, but because you do. The fire that's been waiting to be unleashed isn't something you need to create. It's something you simply need to stop suppressing. It's been there all along, beneath the doubt, beneath the guilt, beneath the fear. And now, as you step fully into your own authority, it illuminates not just your path, but the very reason you were born. To express a truth that only you can embody, to offer a gift that only you can give. Betrayal is the ultimate act of cowardice. It takes courage to be honest, but it takes no courage to deceive. It is a choice, not a mistake. It's a conscious decision to put self-interest above loyalty and truth. With these practical strategies for liberation in hand, we can now explore even deeper dimensions of transformation. The tools we've covered so far address the symptoms and immediate causes of emotional reactivity, but lasting freedom requires understanding the more subtle patterns operating beneath the surface, the hidden mechanisms that keep us trapped even when we're actively trying to change. Part 5. Beyond the surface. The different ideas that are just as important. Chapter 15. You can do it. People showed me their true colors this year. I needed that. How many times have you actually progressed without realizing it? How many times have you overcome something, big or small, that once felt impossible? I remember the first time I ever went snowboarding. It was actually the first time I'd ever seen snow. I was 16 years old and went away with my brother, sister, and their partners. My brother had been before, so told me to go to a group lesson where they teach you. All I can say is, I left that day and thought to myself, I will never get this. I fell so many times, I had bruises. I thought it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I was literally stuck to a board in the most unnatural position I'd ever been in. I told my brother I was just going to relax for the rest of the trip, but he convinced me that if I keep going, I'll get it. The next day, I went to the group lesson again. And guess what? I got a little better. My confidence started to build. By the fourth day, I was going down the slope on my own, still falling at times, but considerably better and having a lot of fun. This is the thing. Your mind is wired to focus on what hasn't changed yet and what you cannot do. But if you looked at yourself from the outside, you'd see how far you've already come. The problem isn't that you're stuck. It's that your thoughts convince you that you are. The truth is, you're never actually stuck. You always have choices. They might not be easy choices, and they might come with risk, but they exist. The real reason you feel stuck isn't because you can't move forward, but because you're afraid to. Maybe you're afraid of failing. Maybe you're afraid of what people will think if you take a risk and fall flat on your face. Maybe you're afraid that even if you try, nothing will change. And so, instead of confronting that fear, you choose inaction. You convince yourself that you're powerless, even when you're not. Part of what makes us feel stuck is the stagnant energy that comes from repetition. Day after day, doing the same things in the same places, your energy gets trapped in familiar patterns. Think about it. How many times have you felt reinvigorated just by changing your environment? Taking a walk, traveling somewhere new, even just rearranging your furniture. There's a reason for that. Movement creates new energy. New spaces create new possibilities. I remember when I was caught in an exhausting cycle of anxiety and rumination. For weeks, I tried to mentally power through it. I kept telling myself I needed to be stronger, that I should be able to fix my thought patterns through sheer willpower. I meditated, journaled, and practiced all the mental techniques I knew, yet the anxious thoughts continued to loop endlessly. And even though all of that helped momentarily, little did I realize there was another underlying repetitive energy that was building, and I had to address it. It wasn't until I decided to go away on a road trip that everything changed. About 2 hours into the drive, something remarkable happened. I started to feel my anxiety and looping thoughts dissolve. I hadn't developed better coping skills in those 2 hours. I had simply changed my physical location. The further I drove from my familiar environment, the quieter my mind became. Sometimes what we interpret as a mental block is actually an environmental one. This is why sometimes the most powerful step you can take isn't doubling down on mental effort, but simply changing your surroundings. A weekend away, a day spent in nature, even working from a different location can create the mental space needed for new perspectives to emerge. Physical distance often translates to psychological distance, allowing you to see your situation through fresh eyes. When energy becomes stagnant, your thoughts start to loop. The same worries, the same fears, the same self-doubts play on repeat in your mind. And because nothing in your environment is changing, nothing in your internal landscape changes either. You're looking at the same problems from the same perspective. So of course, you're coming up with the same solutions, or lack thereof. Growth doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment. It comes from deciding that where you are is no longer an option. It comes from taking action even when you're scared, even when you don't feel ready, even when the outcome is uncertain. Sometimes that action might be as simple as putting yourself in a new environment, especially in nature, where the constant background noise of your anxious thoughts can finally quiet down. And if you feel like you're stuck, ask yourself this: am I actually stuck, or am I just scared to do something different? Or perhaps, have I been in the same environment too long, trying to solve problems with the same mind that created them? Because more often than not, the only thing keeping you in place isn't the world around you, it's the story in your mind. And the moment you decide to move, whether that's taking a different action or simply changing your physical location, you'll realize you've been capable of progress all along. But what creates these limiting stories in the first place? Behind these mental barriers lies a powerful force that both protects and constrains you: the ego. Understanding how this silent trickster operates is the key to liberating yourself from the illusion of stagnation. Chapter 16. The ego's silent trickery. How your mind keeps you small. Sometimes people will act like you're hard to deal with because you aren't easy to fool. Ego is often misunderstood. It's easy to think of it as arrogance, the person who brags loudly, takes up space, and believes they are superior to everyone else. But ego is much quieter than that. It doesn't just show up as overconfidence. It also appears as self-doubt, fear of judgment, and hesitation to put yourself out there. Ego is what stops you from sharing your thoughts, because you're afraid people will disagree. Ego is what makes you second-guess your dreams because failing would feel humiliating. Ego is the voice that convinces you to stay in your comfort zone, telling you that playing it safe is better than taking a risk. Ego tells you that you are always right and doesn't want you to learn, change, or grow. Ego wants you to remain stuck, creating the same cycles. But here's the trap. The ego's number one goal isn't to make you happy. It's to keep you safe. And in doing so, it often keeps you small. It makes you hesitate before stepping into the unknown, clinging to an illusion of control that doesn't actually exist. It convinces you that if you just avoid embarrassment, rejection, or failure, you'll be fine. But has avoiding these things ever truly made you feel better? Has shrinking yourself to avoid risk ever led to real confidence? The biggest trick your ego plays is making you believe that if you avoid discomfort, you will be protected. But in reality, avoiding discomfort only makes it worse. You don't gain confidence by playing it safe. You gain confidence by proving to yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. Think about the things you've avoided because of ego. How many times have you held back from expressing yourself because you fear judgment? How many times have you turned down an opportunity because failing at it would feel worse than never trying at all? The ego would rather let you live with the regret of not trying than with the temporary sting of trying and failing. But in the long run, which one hurts more? The truth is, the ego is just another mental construct. It's a defense mechanism built from your past experiences, social conditioning, and personal fears. But it is not you. The moment you recognize its tricks, you gain power over it. You stop letting fear make your decisions. You stop avoiding opportunities because of what people might think. You stop letting an illusion of safety keep you from experiencing real growth. Your ego will always try to protect you, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to live a protected life or a fulfilled one. If you get a different me, that means I saw the real you. As we move beyond the ways our ego can limit us, we encounter one of life's most complex topics: forgiveness in order to heal. We've all heard different perspectives on forgiveness, from spiritual traditions to self-help books to personal advice. But healing rarely follows a straight line, and our relationship with forgiveness can be deeply personal. What does forgiveness truly mean? Is there only one way to find peace after being wounded? In exploring these questions, we might discover that healing contains more nuance than what we've been led to believe, and that finding our authentic path forward might look different than we expected. Part 6. Ways to Freedom. Chapter 17. What they didn't tell you about forgiveness. Throughout our lives, we encounter the teaching that forgiveness is essential for healing. The message seems clear. To find peace, we must forgive those who have harmed us. Yet as we delve deeper into the journey of healing, we discover a more nuanced truth, one that honors both the profound power of forgiveness and the deeply personal nature of each person's healing path. When someone has fundamentally altered how you see yourself, how you move through the world, or how safe you feel in your own body, the question of forgiveness becomes more complex than inspirational quotes might suggest. These profound wounds touch the very core of our being, reshaping our relationship with ourselves and with the world around us. In these situations, healing doesn't always follow a prescribed formula. Sometimes, the path to wholeness involves acknowledging that certain wounds need to be honored differently. This isn't about harboring vengeance or remaining bitter. It's about recognizing that true healing comes from authenticity, not from forcing yourself to forgive before you're genuinely ready. There can be quiet strength in choosing to prioritize your own healing over premature forgiveness. This choice reflects clarity, not resentment, a clear-eyed acceptance of what happened, and a commitment to your own well-being. You've acknowledged the reality without diminishing it. You've accepted that the other person may never change, apologize, or take responsibility. And you've found peace through boundaries and self-respect, rather than through forgiveness that doesn't yet feel authentic. Consider your body's natural healing process. When you suffer a deep cut, your body doesn't need to forgive what cut it in order to heal. It requires proper care, cleaning the wound, protecting it from further harm, giving it time, and perhaps medical attention. The body's wisdom lies in prioritizing restoration rather than reconciliation with the object that caused the injury. Our emotional healing can follow a similar pattern, focusing first on our own recovery rather than on our relationship with what harmed us, regardless of how long that takes. True forgiveness, when it arises naturally from within, holds tremendous power, and I guess it's the pinnacle we'd all like to get to one day for every situation. But only when, or if, we are ever ready. When it emerges as a genuine release that feels right for you, not from external pressure or obligation, it can be profoundly liberating. Yet this kind of forgiveness cannot be manufactured or rushed. It arrives in its own time, like a flower that blooms when conditions are right, not when we demand it. What many don't openly discuss is how forgiveness pursued from a sense of obligation, rather than genuine readiness, can actually impede healing. Those who force themselves to forgive prematurely often find themselves caught in cycles of continued harm or lingering resentment that they then feel guilty about. The dissonance between what they believe they should feel and what they actually feel creates additional suffering. Now they're not only processing the original wound, but also feeling inadequate for not forgiving properly. Your relationship with forgiveness may evolve over time. What feels impossible today might gradually transform as you rebuild yourself. Perhaps one day, when the wound no longer defines any part of your identity, forgiveness may arrive unexpectedly, not because the other person deserves it, but because you no longer need to withhold it to protect yourself. Or perhaps your path leads elsewhere, and that, too, is perfectly valid. The essence of healing isn't about meeting external expectations, but about becoming whole again. It's about reclaiming your authentic self, not performing forgiveness to appear virtuous or healed by others' standards. You need not justify your healing journey to anyone. You're allowed to define your own path forward. I honor my own timeline for healing. I release the pressure to feel compassion before I'm ready. I recognize there are many paths to freedom. What truly matters isn't whether you forgive, but whether you're able to move forward with your life in a way that feels authentic and whole. Many people have built rich, fulfilling lives defined by their own values without ever reaching the point of forgiveness for certain deep wounds. And this hasn't made their healing any less complete. They've found ways to process their experiences, integrate the lessons, establish clear boundaries, and redirect their energy toward what brings them joy and purpose. There's a profound difference between being stuck in bitterness and consciously choosing not to forgive while still moving forward. The former keeps you tethered to the past, while the latter acknowledges what happened without allowing it to determine your future. You can release the stranglehold that someone had on your life without necessarily offering them forgiveness. You can stop carrying the weight of their actions without absolution. You can reclaim your power and your peace without completing the particular ritual of forgiveness that society often demands. When you reclaim this sovereignty over your healing journey, something remarkable happens. You begin to touch something deeper than the stories of what happened to you. A fundamental wellspring of inner peace that exists beyond any particular relationship or past wound. This shift moves your focus from external circumstances to the cultivation of your own internal harmony. While forgiveness concerns how we relate to others in our past, inner peace addresses how we relate to ourselves in the present moment. And ultimately, this relationship with yourself may be the most profound healing of all. Chapter 18. Beyond Happiness. Finding Inner Peace. You cannot fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed, but you can ruin your life trying. You're human. That's it. Just allow yourself to be human and not perfect. Here's a truth that might be hard to swallow. Happiness, as we've been taught to understand it, is largely a myth. The pursuit of constant happiness is perhaps the most misguided quest we undertake. It's also a relatively new obsession in human history. This idea that we should be in a perpetual state of joy and satisfaction. Think about it. When did we decide that being happy all the time was the goal of human existence? And what is happening anyway? What warrants that term? Is it going out and having fun? Is it being on a high? Is it always being at peace and never having any issues? When did we start believing something was wrong with us if we weren't constantly feeling good? This modern myth of happiness has set us up for profound disappointment. We've been sold the idea that if we just find the right job, partner, house, body, or lifestyle, we'll unlock some state of permanent contentment. But this promise is fundamentally flawed. Happiness, by its very nature, is fleeting. It comes and goes. It rises and falls with circumstances, with hormones, with weather, with the countless variables of life that are beyond our control. The more we desperately chase it, the more it seems to evade us. The more we try to hold on to happy moments, the quicker they slip through our fingers. And in constantly pursuing this elusive state, we miss the richness of the full human experience. Part of accepting our humanity is acknowledging that we're always in the process of learning. And that process rarely follows a straight line. Sometimes we make the same mistakes for 15 years. We circle back to the same kinds of people who hurt us before. We return to self-destructive habits we swore we'd never do again. We find ourselves in patterns so familiar that we can predict their painful endings before they even begin. But what about the smaller mistakes we make daily? The missed opportunity, the careless word, the forgotten task. We're often far harsher on ourselves for those everyday missteps than for our larger patterns. There is liberation in saying, I made a mistake and it's okay, and then moving forward without dwelling. It's when you try to resist and attempt to correct what's already happened that anxiety creeps in. You have to give yourself room to be imperfect. The more you understand that making mistakes is simply part of being human, the less power they have over you. When you make a small mistake, feel it fully for a moment, then allow yourself to move on by accepting it. You'll quickly realize it's rarely the end of the world. Life constantly presents new opportunities if you keep moving forward instead of looking back. That meeting where you misspoke, that email with the typo, that moment of forgetfulness. Stop replaying these moments. Accept them. Give yourself grace to be human, and you'll have discovered a key to daily peace. It's easy to look back and think, I should have known better. I've wasted so much time. Why did it take me so long to see what was right in front of me? But the truth is both simpler and more profound. If you really knew, if you truly, deeply knew at your core, you would have made the decision you're making now. You only know what you know at any point in your life, and you make changes when you are genuinely ready. If you didn't change sooner, it simply means you still had more to learn. This is why the timing of change is often more perfect than we realize. The lessons we need to learn don't arrive when we think they should. They arrive when we're finally prepared to receive them. That relationship you stayed in too long, those years repeating the same patterns, they weren't wasted time. They were the exact experience you needed to bring you to this moment of clarity, to this precise point of transformation. This is your journey, as unique as your fingerprint, no one else's. Look at nature. Nothing in the natural world exists in a constant state. There are seasons, cycles, ebbs and flows. Trees don't bloom year-round. Animals don't migrate continuously. The ocean doesn't maintain a single tide. So why do we expect our emotional lives to be any different? Why have we pathologized normal human emotions like sadness, anger, frustration, or grief by labeling them as obstacles to this mythical state of perpetual happiness? What if, instead of chasing happiness, we sought something deeper, something more sustainable? What if the goal isn't happiness at all, but understanding? A state of being that doesn't depend on everything going right, but on your ability to comprehend and accept life even when things go wrong. A fundamental recognition that life will contain joy and sorrow, ease and struggle, comfort and pain, and that all of these experiences have meaning. The fear of change, the comfort of familiar pain, the ego's silent trickery, all of these are obstacles on the path to understanding. They keep us stuck in patterns that may feel safe, but ultimately rob us of the fullness of life. Breaking free from these patterns isn't about reaching some state of perfect happiness. It's about allowing yourself to be fully human, with all the messiness and imperfection that entails, and still giving yourself space to learn and evolve. True understanding comes from acceptance, not resignation, but genuine recognition of what is. It comes from letting go of the constant struggle against reality and instead learning to work with it. It comes from releasing the need to control everything and everyone around you. It comes from trusting that you can comprehend whatever life brings, even if it's not what you expected or wanted. This doesn't mean you never feel sad, angry, disappointed, or afraid. It means you don't resist these emotions or get caught in them. You allow them to move through you, teaching you what they came to teach, and then you let them go. You recognize that emotions, like thoughts, are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. In the quiet moments when you're not running from pain or chasing pleasure, when you're simply present with what is, you'll find that understanding was never really lost. It was just waiting for you to stop long enough to notice it. And in that noticing, in that returning to yourself, you'll discover that what you've been searching for has been with you all along. So maybe the question isn't, how can I be happy? But rather, how can I understand and accept what is? Because when you find that understanding, happiness no longer needs to be chased. It becomes simply another color in the rich tapestry of a life fully lived. When we release the exhausting pursuit of constant happiness and embrace deeper understanding instead, something remarkable begins to happen. The acceptance of life's spectrum, its joys and sorrows, its comforts and challenges, creates space for a deeper dimension of experience to emerge. And in that very understanding is where true appreciation for life exists. There is a quietness, a peace in understanding life's ups and downs that nothing else can give. Part 7. The Light. Chapter 19. Finding Light in Life's Journey. As we first visited in the book, there's something about those first moments of waking that can feel so heavy. I know this intimately. That space between sleep and consciousness, when yesterday's worries and tomorrow's uncertainties rush in all at once. Most mornings, I wake with that weight pressing against my chest, a vague sense of unease that arrives before I've even opened my eyes. Sometimes it's just a feeling of negativity that I can't really explain or understand at the time. I just feel it. But there is light. I do my best to never leave the house carrying that heaviness. This is where my journey begins each day. Not in denying the weight, but in choosing what else I will carry alongside with it. With my hand placed gently over my heart, I whisper the words that have become my anchor. Thank you for another day of life. In that moment, it's the beginning of the shift. The day ahead might not be perfect. There might be challenges, disappointments, moments of frustration. But in this sacred morning ritual, I lay the foundation for how I'll meet whatever comes. I say to myself, I am also in control of how I feel. Even if it's a small amount of control, it's something. I fill my heart with love and light, breath by breath, allowing gratitude to create space within me for both the reality of what is and the possibility of what could be. This isn't about forcing positivity or pretending difficulties don't exist. It's about recognizing the profound gift of being alive for another day, of having another chance to love, to grow, to experience the extraordinary miracle of existence. When we truly understand that each day is not guaranteed, but graciously given, everything changes. The ordinary becomes sacred. Small joys become treasures. And in this space of appreciation, we begin to see with new eyes the incredible abundance that surrounds us, even in our most challenging seasons. The faces of those we love, family members and friends who know us fully and choose us anyway. I visualize them in these quiet morning moments, letting my heart fill with gratitude for each unique soul journeying alongside me. We get only one life with these particular people we love. One chance to fully appreciate the parent who sacrificed for us, the child whose growth we witness day by day, the friend who shows up consistently through life's storms, the partner who stands by us, the pet who is unconditionally loving, or the most important of all, ourselves. I give thanks to myself. Remember this: your normal day is someone's dream. So be thankful every single day. What began in those still moments before leaving my house has gradually expanded into a way of moving through the world. I've discovered that gratitude isn't just a feeling that comes and goes. It's a lens through which we can choose to view everything. When we look through this lens, we notice the small miracles we might otherwise miss. The warmth of sunlight across the floor, the melody of birds outside our window, the strength in a body that continues to carry us despite its imperfections. I've come to believe deeply that everything good we put into the world returns to us multiplied. When we approach life with genuine thankfulness, we become more generous, more compassionate, more present. We become less affected by other people's shortcomings, and these qualities inevitably attract similar energies back to us. Not because we're manipulating some cosmic reward system, but because appreciation fundamentally changes who we are and how we interact with the world. The most challenging periods of my life have revealed this truth most clearly. Looking back, I can see with perfect clarity how each apparent setback was actually setting me up for growth I couldn't yet imagine. It's true. Our life has its seasons, just like the weather. That relationship that ended painfully created space for deeper love to enter. That professional disappointment redirected me toward work that nourishes my soul. That period of uncertainty taught me to trust life's unfolding in ways I never could have learned through ease alone. And here's another truth I've discovered along the way. We have enough time. Despite our constant feeling of rushing, of time slipping away, we have enough time to pursue new dreams, new experiences, to succeed, to transform. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. Take a moment to reflect on where you were 27 years ago. That entire span of time, all those moments and experiences you've lived through since then, he spent in a cell, unable to do all the things you've been free to do. Consider this. Mandela was 71 years old when he was finally released from prison. At 75, an age when many believe life's most productive years are behind them, he became the president of South Africa. He emerged to transform a nation and leave a legacy that will echo through generations. Now I ask you, what will you do with the next 27 years of your life? What dreams might you fulfill? What impact might you have? What joy might you create with that same span of time? If Mandela could achieve what he did after losing nearly 3 decades of his life, what might be possible for you? What dreams have you deferred, thinking it's too late or I don't have enough time? The truth is, it's never too late to begin, to create, to transform, to live. Everything happens for a reason, not in some predetermined sense where suffering is assigned to teach us lessons, but in the way that each experience shapes us into exactly who we need to become. Through every storm, every heartbreak, every moment when I thought I couldn't possibly go on, life has proven that everything really does work out. Not always in the ways I expected, not always on my timeline, but always in ways that ultimately serve my growth and awakening. This isn't blind optimism. It's truth I've witnessed again and again, both in my life and in the lives of countless others who have chosen to trust the journey, even when the path ahead was shrouded in fog. You've been on your own journey through these pages. You've faced truths about yourself that weren't always comfortable. You've recognized patterns that no longer serve you. You've begun the process of reclaiming parts of yourself that got lost along the way. And perhaps, like me, you still wake up some mornings feeling the weight of it all. But I hope you also feel something else stirring within you. A quiet certainty that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Every challenge, every joy, every seemingly random encounter is weaving the unique tapestry of your life with exquisite precision. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is accidental. You are being shaped, moment by moment, into the person you're destined to become. So tomorrow morning, when consciousness first returns, and with it perhaps that familiar heaviness, place your hand on your heart. Feel whatever is there, the weight, the worry, the weariness. And then, breath by breath, fill that space with light and love as you whisper, "Thank you for another day of life." Name the possibilities you're grateful for. Let appreciation wash through you, transforming how you'll meet this one precious day. And as this book draws closer to the end, I give you this parting message. Every challenge is shaping you. Every joy is revealing you. Every moment is an opportunity to choose appreciation over resentment, gratitude over entitlement, presence over distraction. And in that choice, made again and again, morning after morning, lies a power greater than any obstacle you'll ever face. The power to see your one wild and precious life as the extraordinary gift it truly is. You're stronger than you think sometimes. You always have been. Chapter 20. Go and live. This is your chapter to write. Go and live. You've got this. I would just like to say, well done on completing this book. I mean that. It says a lot about your determination to improve yourself, which in itself speaks volumes about your character. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this journey with you. I wish you all the best on your journey, and remember that you can always revisit what we've covered, whether it's a specific part or the entire book, until it truly sinks in. We all need a healthy reminder sometimes. If you enjoyed this book and felt like it resonated with you, I'd really appreciate if you left a short review. If you have time, of course. In the meantime, I hope you have an amazing day, and once again, all the best on your journey. Love and light, Daniel Chidiak.